Throughout history, entire societies have fallen into states of collective madness, blindly embracing destructive ideologies, delusions, and mass hysteria. Today, we are witnessing a new wave of mass psychosis, one that is reshaping reality, disconnecting people from truth, and driving humanity toward chaos. But how did we get here? What psychological mechanisms turn normal individuals into a collective of the mentally unwell? In this video, we will explore the root causes of mass psychosis and how it continues to shape the modern world. Mass psychosis is not a new phenomenon. It has been a recurring feature of human history. At its core, mass psychosis refers to the collective breakdown of rational thinking in society, where groups of people become engulfed in shared delusions or irrational beliefs. These collective mental states often arise in times of social upheaval, political instability, or extreme stress. In these moments, the collective mind can be manipulated and distorted in ways that leave entire populations vulnerable to dangerous ideologies, paranoia, or widespread fear. To understand the anatomy of mass psychosis, we need to look at the psychological mechanisms that allow it to take hold. One of the most significant factors in the spread of mass delusions is the breakdown of social cohesion. When people are unable to rely on each other for support, or when trust in institutions erodes, a psychological void is created. This emptiness is then filled by extreme ideologies or false beliefs that promise simple solutions to complex problems. It is easier for individuals to latch onto these falsehoods when they feel disconnected from others, isolated, or uncertain about the future. Mass psychosis also thrives on fear. Fear can be a powerful tool for those in power, whether in the form of political leaders, media, or even corporate entities. It is used to control populations, distract them from real issues, and keep them in a state of constant anxiety. Fear can convince people that their lives are at risk, even when evidence doesn't support the claim, and it can lead them to make irrational decisions based on that fear. This sense of threat can be external, like the fear of an enemy nation or a global crisis, or it can be internal, such as fear of losing one's social standing or being ostracized for questioning dominant narratives. One of the most famous examples of mass psychosis in history is the witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries. People, driven by fear and religious hysteria, were convinced that they were surrounded by witches and malevolent spirits. The public trials and executions that followed were not based on any tangible evidence, but on the collective belief that such supernatural forces were a real and present danger. The belief in witches became so ingrained that it swept through entire communities, leading to widespread accusations and paranoia, even when there was no logical basis for such fears. Another more modern example is the rise of totalitarian regimes in the 20th century, particularly during the era of Nazi Germany. Through propaganda, manipulation, and fear, the ruling class was able to create a collective psychosis that justified the atrocities of the Holocaust. By appealing to the population's anxieties and making scapegoats out of minority groups, leaders were able to reshape reality for millions of people. The collective delusion that the Jewish people were an existential threat to the nation led to widespread complicity in one of the most horrific genocides in human history. This form of mass psychosis was facilitated by the deliberate spreading of lies, often amplified by the state-controlled media, which helped enforce a narrative of fear and hatred. When fear takes hold, it can rapidly spread through a society, and once it does, rational thinking is often sidelined. People who might otherwise question the irrationality of mass beliefs are swept along by the tide of social pressure. Mass psychosis is, in many ways, a self-perpetuating cycle. The more people that believe in a particular delusion, the more real it becomes to the rest of society. The shared belief becomes a reality in the minds of those who are caught up in it. And the more entrenched the delusion becomes, the harder it is to break free. The digital age has added a new layer of complexity to the spread of mass psychosis. Social media platforms, online forums, and 24-hour news cycles have created environments where misinformation and disinformation can spread faster and more effectively than ever before. The psychological mechanisms that drive mass psychosis have not changed, but the digital age has made it easier for these mechanisms to be exploited. In a world where everyone is constantly connected, individuals are more likely to encounter information that aligns with their existing beliefs, even if that information is false or misleading. This phenomenon is known as confirmation bias, and it plays a significant role in the way mass psychosis spreads today. On social media, people live in echo chambers, where they are surrounded by like-minded individuals who reinforce their beliefs. Algorithms are designed to show people more of what they already agree with, ensuring that they are never exposed to contradictory viewpoints. This creates a feedback loop where individuals become more and more entrenched in their beliefs, no matter how irrational or unfounded those beliefs may be. The effect is even more pronounced when sensationalist news outlets or social media influencers amplify false narratives. These platforms allow information to spread rapidly, often with little regard for truth or fact-checking. Fear plays a central role in the digital version of mass psychosis. With the rise of clickbait headlines, emotional appeals, and fear-mongering content, people are constantly fed messages that evoke strong emotional responses. The more sensational the story, the more likely it is to be shared and spread, which further amplifies the cycle of fear and irrationality. In this environment, it becomes difficult to discern fact from fiction, and many people find themselves swayed by emotions rather than reason. As a result, the digital landscape becomes fertile ground for the cultivation of collective delusions. Social media also facilitates the spread of conspiracy theories, which are often central to mass psychosis. These theories offer simple explanations for complex problems and provide a sense of control in a world that feels unpredictable and chaotic. Conspiracy theories often thrive in times of uncertainty, as people are more likely to grasp at explanations that fit their fears or anxieties. Whether it's a belief in global cabals, secretive organizations, or apocalyptic scenarios, these theories feed into the mass psychosis by creating an alternative reality where individuals are convinced they hold the truth that others are blind to. These beliefs can become so all-consuming that they begin to shape a person's entire worldview, blurring the line between fact and fantasy. The digital age has also introduced new ways for these delusions to spread, such as through viral videos, memes, and social media influencers. These platforms allow individuals to create narratives that bypass traditional gatekeepers of information, like journalists, scientists, and academics. Instead, content creators who understand the psychology of social media can craft stories that resonate emotionally with large audiences, even if those stories are based on false or misleading information. This has led to an environment where people are more likely to be influenced by viral content than by well-researched, fact-based reporting. In many ways, mass psychosis in the digital age is more pervasive and harder to escape than ever before. The constant flow of information, the speed with which it spreads, and the ability for individuals to tailor their online experience to only show content that aligns with their beliefs have created a perfect storm for collective delusions to take root. As individuals retreat further into their own digital bubbles, they become more susceptible to the distorted realities that flourish within them. What's more, the sheer volume of conflicting information can leave people feeling overwhelmed, leading them to grasp at simplistic and extreme solutions that promise to restore order to a chaotic world. In the face of this growing phenomenon, it's crucial to understand the psychological dynamics at play. The digital age has not only changed how we communicate, but it has also fundamentally altered the way we process information, interact with others, and form beliefs. This shift has made us more vulnerable than ever to the dangers of mass psychosis, and it's up to each of us to critically engage with the world around us before we, too, are swept up in the tide of collective madness. The digital age has drastically reshaped the way we experience reality, providing new avenues for the spread of mass psychosis. Social media, the internet, and the constant bombardment of information have amplified psychological vulnerabilities in ways that earlier societies could not have imagined. In the past, societies were limited by their geographical locations and the speed at which information could travel. Today, digital platforms allow news, ideologies, rumors, and misinformation to spread faster and wider than ever before. This has created an environment ripe for mass psychosis to flourish. The central mechanism driving the spread of mass psychosis in the digital age is the sheer speed and scale of information dissemination. Unlike traditional forms of communication, where news and ideas could only reach a limited audience through print media or word of mouth, the internet has exponentially increased the speed at which information, whether true or false, can be shared. Social media platforms, news websites, blogs, and video sharing services have become the modern megaphones for spreading collective delusions, amplifying everything from conspiracy theories to pseudoscience. When something goes viral, it spreads rapidly, often before any effort can be made to fact-check or correct the information. The speed at which misinformation spreads creates a feedback loop that reinforces delusional thinking. With constant updates, notifications, and headlines flashing across screens, the human brain is constantly in a state of alertness, trying to process an overwhelming amount of information. In this environment, people are more likely to latch onto sensational headlines or emotional appeals without critically engaging with the content. Our cognitive biases, such as the confirmation bias, are exacerbated in this environment. People are more likely to engage with information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs, and the rapid-fire nature of digital media ensures that these beliefs are reinforced repeatedly. This constant reinforcement makes it harder for individuals to question or challenge the narratives they are presented with, creating a collective mental state where rationality is overshadowed by emotional responses. One of the most powerful tools in the digital age is the algorithm. These algorithms are designed to recommend content that will keep users engaged, and this often means showing them content that aligns with their interests and biases. Social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as video sharing platforms like YouTube, all use algorithms to curate content tailored to individual users. While this may seem like a convenience, it also has the unintended consequence of creating echo chambers, where people are only exposed to information that supports their worldview. Echo chambers isolate individuals from contradictory viewpoints, making it more difficult for them to recognize when they are being misled or manipulated. The more time people spend within these echo chambers, the more entrenched they become in their beliefs, regardless of how irrational or false those beliefs may be. These digital spaces become insular worlds, where everyone shares the same opinions, reinforcing the idea that everyone else is wrong and we are the ones who know the truth. In extreme cases, these echo chambers can foster a collective delusion, where individuals become convinced that they are part of an enlightened few, and the outside world is filled with sheeple or enemies who don't understand the real truth. The isolation from other perspectives leads to the crystallization of extreme ideologies, fueling an us vs them mentality that can escalate into harmful actions. In the digital age, the lines between reality and fiction have become increasingly blurred. The internet provides endless opportunities for the creation of alternative realities, where facts are often distorted or outright fabricated. Deepfake technology, for example, allows anyone to create videos that seem real, even though they are completely fabricated. Misinformation can be amplified through videos, photos, and even memes, making it harder for people to differentiate between what is real and what is not. These distorted realities are designed to evoke emotional reactions, making it difficult for individuals to engage with the content critically. People are far more likely to share a sensational video or meme that aligns with their beliefs, without taking the time to verify its authenticity. This phenomenon is particularly dangerous when it comes to political ideologies or social movements. Digital platforms allow fringe ideas to reach larger audiences, bypassing traditional media filters that would have previously been in place to challenge or fact-check these beliefs. As a result, extremist movements can gain traction, and individuals who may have never been exposed to such ideas are drawn in by the overwhelming sense of belonging or purpose that these movements offer. In many cases, these ideologies prey on people's fears, insecurities, or feelings of powerlessness, offering them a clear and simple explanation for the complex problems they face. Whether it's conspiracy theories about government control or extremist political ideologies, the digital space creates fertile ground for the cultivation of mass psychosis. Furthermore, the constant exposure to emotionally charged content can lead to a phenomenon known as emotional contagion. Emotional contagion refers to the spread of emotions from one person to another, and in the context of the digital age, it can spread virally through social media. When people are constantly exposed to outrage, fear, or anger, they begin to mirror those emotions themselves. This emotional contagion amplifies the emotional responses to information, making it harder for individuals to engage with content rationally. As a result, people may become more likely to believe in false or exaggerated claims, simply because those claims elicit a strong emotional reaction. The way information is consumed in the digital age also leads to a phenomenon known as information overload. With the constant stream of data, notifications, and updates, individuals are left struggling to process it all. As a result, many people turn to quick, easily digestible content, memes, sound bites, or sensational headlines that don't require deep thought or reflection. This type of content often lacks nuance and encourages snap judgments. When people are overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information, they are more likely to seek out content that reaffirms their existing beliefs and biases, rather than critically engaging with diverse perspectives. Information overload leads to mental fatigue, making it easier for mass delusions to take root in a society. The rise of influencers and viral content creators has also played a significant role in the spread of mass psychosis. Influencers often have large followings, and their opinions and content can reach millions of people in a matter of hours. These influencers can shape public opinion by presenting themselves as authentic or trustworthy, often bypassing traditional gatekeepers like journalists or experts. The relationship between influencers and their followers can create a sense of intimacy and trust, even though the content they produce may be misleading or harmful. Influencers, who often rely on engagement and clicks to maintain their relevance, are incentivized to produce content that generates strong emotional reactions, regardless of its accuracy. This leads to a situation where misinformation can spread as quickly as, if not faster than, facts, further entrenching individuals in their distorted realities. Another critical aspect of mass psychosis in the digital age is the manipulation of emotions for commercial or political gain. Social media platforms are built on algorithms that prioritize engagement, meaning that posts that evoke strong emotional reactions, whether through outrage, fear, or joy, are more likely to be shared and amplified. This creates an environment where sensationalism and emotional manipulation thrive. Political campaigns, corporations, and even foreign governments can exploit these algorithms to influence public opinion, shape political outcomes, or even destabilize societies. The more people react emotionally to content, the more profitable it becomes for those who control the platforms or the content itself. This creates a feedback loop where emotional manipulation becomes the norm, reinforcing mass psychosis by keeping individuals in a heightened state of anxiety, outrage, or fear. In this new digital reality, the spread of mass psychosis is no longer limited to a specific location, event, or time period. It is ongoing, omnipresent, and perpetuated by the very systems that were designed to connect us. The vast reach of digital platforms, combined with the manipulation of emotions and cognitive biases, has created the perfect storm for the amplification of collective delusions. In the face of this, it is more crucial than ever for individuals to cultivate critical thinking skills, engage with diverse perspectives, and be mindful of the content they consume. Only by recognizing the dangers of digital mass psychosis can we begin to reclaim control over our own minds and break free from the cycles of misinformation and emotional manipulation. When societal structures begin to collapse or unravel, individuals often find themselves searching for meaning in a world that feels increasingly chaotic, uncertain, and devoid of purpose. The loss of meaning is one of the most potent drivers behind the rise of mass psychosis. Without clear moral or philosophical frameworks to guide them, people may begin to latch onto extremist ideologies, radical movements, or destructive belief systems as a way to fill the void that their previous convictions once occupied. In such a state of confusion, these ideologies can offer a false sense of security and certainty, promising an easy solution to life's complexities, even if that solution is based on flawed reasoning or irrational beliefs. The loss of meaning in society is not a new phenomenon, but it has been dramatically accelerated in modern times. Traditional belief systems, whether religious, philosophical, or political, have gradually lost their influence in many parts of the world. As societies become more secular, individualistic, and fragmented, the shared sense of purpose that once held communities together begins to erode. The result is a growing sense of existential anxiety, where individuals are forced to confront the reality of an indifferent, impersonal universe. This confrontation with meaninglessness can lead to a profound sense of isolation and disorientation, which in turn creates fertile ground for mass psychosis to take root. At its core, the loss of meaning undermines the foundation of human identity. When traditional sources of meaning, such as religion, family, and community, are no longer as influential, people often feel unmoored from their own sense of self. This existential void can manifest as a deep-seated fear of insignificance, where individuals struggle to find purpose or value in their lives. In this state of desperation, individuals may seek out ideologies that promise to give their lives meaning, even if those ideologies are rooted in fear, hatred, or delusion. These belief systems offer a sense of belonging, an us versus them mentality that can provide comfort in the face of an uncertain and hostile world. One of the most dangerous consequences of this search for meaning is the rise of nihilism. Nihilism is the philosophical belief that life has no inherent meaning or value. While nihilism can sometimes lead to intellectual exploration and self-awareness, it can also spiral into despair and hopelessness. When individuals begin to see the world as meaningless, they may adopt a fatalistic worldview that everything is arbitrary and therefore nothing matters. This perspective can lead to a breakdown of moral values and a willingness to embrace extreme or destructive behaviors. Without any sense of moral direction, people can justify harmful actions, whether against others or themselves, in the name of rejecting the futility of existence. The rise of nihilism has been exacerbated by the increasing focus on materialism and individualism in modern society. As consumer culture prioritizes wealth, status, and external validation, individuals are often left feeling empty, as these pursuits fail to provide long-term satisfaction or fulfillment. The constant bombardment of advertisements, social media influences, and superficial goals can deepen feelings of inadequacy and lead to a sense of alienation from one's true self. Without a deeper connection to something meaningful, people may look for answers in superficial and sometimes dangerous ideologies that promise to fill the existential gap. Furthermore, the constant exposure to existential challenges, such as climate change, political instability, economic inequality, and the rapid pace of technological change, has only intensified the sense of meaninglessness for many individuals. The modern world can feel overwhelming, with a seemingly endless array of crises and problems that individuals are expected to address. When faced with the enormity of these challenges, it can be tempting to embrace ideologies that provide a clear, though often misguided, solution. These ideologies offer simplistic explanations for complex problems and provide a sense of control over an otherwise uncontrollable world. The erosion of meaning is also closely tied to the phenomenon of identity politics. In the search for meaning, people often turn to group identities such as race, gender, nationality, or political affiliation as a way to establish a sense of belonging and purpose. While group identity can be an important source of support and solidarity, it can also lead to division, tribalism, and conflict. When individuals define themselves primarily through their group affiliations, they may come to see other groups as enemies or threats, reinforcing an us versus them mentality. This type of identity-driven thinking can foster a sense of superiority and righteousness, making it easier for individuals to justify extreme actions in the name of protecting their identity or beliefs. The rise of identity politics has contributed to the fragmentation of society, where people increasingly identify with narrow, insular groups rather than shared human values. This fragmentation makes it harder to build consensus, empathy, and understanding across different sectors of society. People are more likely to cling to ideologies that promise to protect their group from perceived threats, whether those threats are real or imagined. The collective psychosis that emerges from this environment is one in which individuals become so deeply entrenched in their group identity that they lose the ability to engage with others who hold different views or perspectives. In many ways, the search for meaning in the modern world has become a battleground for competing ideologies. Whether it's the rise of nationalism, the spread of conspiracy theories, or the resurgence of authoritarian movements, these ideologies offer a sense of meaning and purpose to individuals who feel adrift in an increasingly uncertain world. They promise to restore order, stability, and clarity, even though the solutions they propose are often based on flawed or dangerous ideas. The search for meaning has become so intertwined with political, social, and cultural movements that the line between ideology and identity has become increasingly blurred. People are no longer just subscribing to political beliefs. They are adopting entire worldviews that shape their sense of self and their interactions with others. The loss of meaning can also be seen in the rise of escapism. In a world that feels devoid of purpose, many individuals turn to distractions, whether through entertainment, substance abuse, or other forms of numbing the pain. While these distractions may provide temporary relief, they ultimately exacerbate the sense of disconnection from reality. When people are unable or unwilling to confront the deeper existential questions of life, they may retreat into superficial pleasures or unhealthy coping mechanisms that only perpetuate the cycle of emptiness and despair. This kind of escapism can also make individuals more susceptible to ideological movements that promise an escape from the perceived chaos of the world. The allure of these ideologies lies in their promise of certainty, structure, and order, something that the modern, chaotic world often lacks. As society continues to lose its sense of shared meaning, the potential for mass psychosis grows. The breakdown of traditional structures, the rise of individualism, and the increasing fragmentation of society all contribute to an environment where people are more vulnerable to falling prey to false ideologies and extreme beliefs. These ideologies promise to fill the existential void that many individuals experience, offering a sense of purpose, belonging, and meaning in an otherwise disordered world. However, as history has shown, these ideologies can also lead to violence, division, and chaos. To break free from the cycle of meaninglessness, it is crucial for individuals to engage in deeper self-reflection, to question the beliefs and ideologies they encounter, and to seek out authentic sources of meaning. Whether through philosophy, spirituality, art, or human connection, individuals must find ways to cultivate meaning in their own lives, rather than relying on external ideologies to provide it for them. Only by doing so can we hope to resist the forces of mass psychosis and reclaim our collective sense of purpose in a world that often seems devoid of it. Mass psychosis is not an isolated phenomenon. It often intersects with the broader trends of political and social manipulation, where the very forces of power can manipulate the collective psyche to further their own agendas. One of the most unsettling aspects of mass psychosis is how it can be weaponized by those in power, whether governments, corporations, or ideological movements, in order to control, exploit, or destabilize entire populations. By understanding how mass psychosis is shaped and manipulated by these forces, we gain insight into how mass delusions become widespread and entrenched. One of the primary methods of manipulation is the use of propaganda. Throughout history, powerful political regimes have used propaganda to shape public perception, spread ideological narratives, and manipulate emotions. Propaganda is not just about misinformation or lies. It's about shaping the way people see the world and influencing their emotions to create a desired response. Propaganda taps into people's deep-seated fears, hopes, and desires, crafting messages that resonate with the collective unconscious. By doing so, it creates an emotional connection to a particular ideology, movement, or cause, regardless of whether that cause is based on truth or reality. The success of propaganda hinges on its ability to bypass rational thought and engage with the emotional and psychological aspects of human nature. When people are emotionally invested in an idea, they are less likely to question it or critically examine its validity. Propaganda often uses simple, clear messages that reinforce a particular worldview, presenting it in black and white terms: us versus them, good versus evil, or right versus wrong. These simplified narratives make it easier for people to align themselves with a cause, as the complexities and nuances of reality are reduced to easily digestible soundbites. By framing an issue in emotional terms, propaganda creates a sense of urgency and danger, prompting individuals to act in ways that they might not otherwise consider. In the digital age, propaganda has evolved into a far more insidious force. The advent of social media and the internet has exponentially increased the speed and reach of propaganda. Unlike traditional forms of media, which were limited by geography and the editorial oversight of newspapers and television stations, social media platforms allow anyone to publish content that can be instantly shared and amplified to millions of people. The virality of online content, whether it's a meme, a video, or a post, creates an environment where emotionally charged messages can spread rapidly, often with little to no oversight or fact-checking. This gives rise to an online ecosystem where misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda can thrive, contributing to the widespread acceptance of false or harmful beliefs. One of the most concerning aspects of modern propaganda is how it is tailored to specific individuals. Through the use of algorithms, social media platforms track and analyze users' behavior, interests, and online activity, allowing them to serve personalized content that aligns with users' pre-existing beliefs and biases. This process, known as filter bubbles or echo chambers, reinforces existing worldviews, isolating individuals from opposing perspectives. In these digital echo chambers, people are exposed primarily to content that confirms their beliefs, which makes them less likely to encounter information that challenges their views. This personalized propaganda creates a feedback loop in which individuals become increasingly entrenched in their own ideological positions, making them more susceptible to radicalization or the spread of misinformation. The ability of propaganda to influence individuals on a massive scale has been demonstrated in political campaigns, where political operatives craft targeted messages designed to sway voters or stir up emotions. In recent years, there have been numerous examples of political actors using social media to manipulate public opinion, including the use of bots, trolls, and fake accounts to spread divisive content or amplify specific messages. These tactics can be used to polarize societies, inflame tensions, and disrupt democratic processes. By tapping into people's emotions, such as fear, anger, or outrage, political manipulators can create a sense of crisis or emergency, encouraging people to support drastic measures or authoritarian policies that they might otherwise reject. Social media platforms, which are built on algorithms that prioritize engagement and emotional responses, are particularly susceptible to these tactics. Content that evokes strong emotions is more likely to be shared, liked, or commented on, creating a viral effect that spreads misinformation far and wide. Whether it's fear-mongering about immigration, climate change, or political corruption, the algorithms behind these platforms create an environment where extreme viewpoints gain more visibility than nuanced or moderate perspectives. This results in a society where polarization is exacerbated and individuals become more isolated in their own ideological bubbles. As people become increasingly entrenched in their echo chambers, they may begin to view opposing viewpoints as not just wrong, but as dangerous or even evil. This can fuel a culture of division, mistrust, and hostility, creating fertile ground for mass psychosis to take hold. In addition to political manipulation, mass psychosis is also influenced by corporate interests, particularly in the context of consumerism and advertising. Corporations have long understood the power of emotional manipulation, using advertising to shape public desires, perceptions, and behaviors. Advertising is not just about promoting a product. It's about creating a narrative around that product that taps into deep-seated emotional needs, such as the desire for status, belonging, or fulfillment. Modern advertising campaigns often appeal to people's insecurities, fears, and aspirations, promising that purchasing a product will solve their problems or make them happier. These emotionally charged advertisements can distort reality, creating false narratives about the ideal life, success, or happiness, which people then internalize. The constant bombardment of advertisements, combined with the normalization of consumerism, contributes to a sense of emptiness and dissatisfaction, especially in the digital age. People are constantly exposed to images of the perfect life, whether it's through social media influencers, celebrity endorsements, or targeted ads that suggest that fulfillment is just a purchase away. However, this external validation is fleeting and ultimately hollow. As individuals strive to live up to unrealistic standards set by corporate interests, they become more susceptible to ideologies and movements that promise a sense of purpose, meaning, and belonging in a world that feels increasingly empty and disconnected. Corporations also play a role in mass psychosis by controlling the flow of information. Through advertising, product placement, and media partnerships, large corporations have the power to shape the narratives that dominate public discourse. Whether it's through funding news outlets, producing entertainment content, or sponsoring social media influencers, corporations can subtly influence public opinion and reinforce certain ideologies. This creates an environment where profit-driven interests take precedence over truth, and individuals are exposed to a steady stream of content designed to shape their desires and beliefs in ways that benefit corporate bottom lines. At its most extreme, mass psychosis can result in the emergence of totalitarian regimes or authoritarian governments. These regimes often exploit societal instability, fear, and uncertainty to consolidate power and control. Totalitarian governments thrive on the disempowerment and manipulation of the masses, using propaganda, surveillance, and fear to keep people in line. By stoking fear and division, they create a climate of uncertainty in which people become more dependent on the state for safety and security. In these environments, people are more likely to abandon their critical faculties and accept the authority of the state without question, even as that authority undermines their freedoms and rights. This dynamic creates a society in which mass psychosis is not only accepted, but encouraged, as individuals relinquish their autonomy in favor of the false security offered by the state. One of the most chilling aspects of mass psychosis is how it can lead to collective violence. When individuals become so entrenched in their ideological beliefs, they may view anyone who challenges those beliefs as a threat. This can lead to dehumanization, where individuals see others as enemies or outsiders who must be silenced or eliminated. Throughout history, we've seen how mass psychosis can lead to wars, genocides, and other forms of large-scale violence. The rhetoric of hatred and fear, amplified by propaganda, creates a situation in which violence becomes not only acceptable, but necessary in the minds of those who are under its influence. Mass psychosis, then, is not just a psychological or cultural phenomenon. It is deeply political. Those who hold power have the ability to manipulate and shape the collective consciousness, using propaganda, emotional manipulation, and divisive tactics to achieve their goals. In order to combat mass psychosis, it is crucial for individuals to cultivate critical thinking, media literacy, and a commitment to truth. By understanding how mass psychosis is created and maintained, we can begin to dismantle the systems of manipulation and reclaim our collective capacity for rational thought, empathy, and social cohesion. Only by doing so can we break free from the grip of mass delusion and restore the ability to see the world clearly.